No one's doing everything. There's so much to do. No one's doing everything.
Yeah.
But there are key cities that are innovating in key directions. So one of them is London and congestion charging. I think they're being very influential globally on how to deal with cars in the centre of cities. Weirdly, Los Angeles keeps getting held up to me as an innovator in public transport. I haven't done that research yet, I haven't looked at that stuff yet, but it keeps getting said to me that that's an innovator in public transport. I think that the Scandinavians, of course, in terms of bikes, in terms of other forms of transport, are really innovating. So there's lots of different places that are doing single things, interesting things in certain directions. And so I guess our strength in Australia has always been that we're very good at going out and cherry picking what's useful and bringing it home. So hopefully we'll be doing a lot more of that. And I think the next thing that Sydney will have to do is congestion charging to get cars out of the centre of the city. If we look at what's happening in London, again, for example, people will just start working 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and they'll work from home 2 days a week. And on the one hand, that's useful. It gives us a different kind of life. But on the other hand, we know we're better together. And so if we're separated, we're not working as well, I don't think. I think that's the great myth of working from home and working remotely, is actually we still need to speak to each other face to face. I think the other thing that's happening specifically in Sydney is that historically we've been a city of social equity and mobility. And one of the images that I'll show tonight is this great divide that's happening between the north and east and the western suburbs in terms of social mobility, and that has something to do with transport, access to transport, but a whole lot of roll-on effects to do with access to decent education, access to hospitals, medical, all of these kind of things that aren't working as well in other parts of the city. So I think if we don't start to sort these things out, something as simple as public transport, there's a whole lot of flow-on effects about social mobility, and we know that inequitable cities are bad cities to live in. I think the thing that we're moving towards is smaller lives and bigger lifestyle, which could be it's a sort of natty, crass thing to say, but I think what it means is that we do less. The single family dwelling becomes less self-contained, and we're distributing the things that are currently we understand to be in the single dwelling out across the urban environment. So we have shared laundries. We might have apartment buildings that are emerging with smaller kitchens, but they have big bookable shared sort of almost semi-professional kitchens where we can flex our MasterChef muscle if we want to and have 30 people around for dinner and do something at that scale. Or a room that can be used for children's parties because you can't fit all the kids in your apartment. So I think we'll start to see a much greater distribution of our lives across the city, which is really exciting. It sets up all these incredibly exciting opportunities. I think one of the problem at the moment in cities like Sydney, North American cities, European cities, is less population growth, though for Sydney that's an issue because we can't afford to keep consuming greenfield to build new houses. We just don't have the space, it's unsustainable. But the problem more is that our housing isn't reflecting transforming social demographics. So we're not able anymore to accommodate new constellations of intimacy and care in the family that might be separated, blended families, multi-generational families. The 3-bedroom house can't do that. So we need to find other ways of being together. I think that's what we need to change. Well, I think it has to come through legislation. It has to come through experimentation. We have to allow architects and commission architects and different kinds of designers to experiment with different ways of living and to make those available for other people to experiment. So, the architecture only produces less than 15%, I think, of the city's built fabric, but that 15% can be very innovative. So we have to innovate and then publish and make available innovations that allow people who aren't architects to begin to work differently with blocks of land, houses, individual dwellings, these kind of things.